Remember we talked about if you had to go down that alley, how you would want somebody powerful and strong who loved you enough to protect you. That's what these children have to have. Loving leadership. Not military drill sergeant, you will jump because I said jump. Not like that. But loving leadership. I'm in control. I've got it. You can relax and be a kid. Right? That kind of a thing. This is a picture one of my children did. Who would you say is the boss of this group? Yeah, big sister Lasha here with the hairdo and the bosom, right? Now, she's got her arms spread out. She gets that much space. Now, the artist next to her, it's done in crayon, so it doesn't scan very well, but it says me. She also has her arms out in the same position that Lasha has. She's leaning toward Lasha, and she has put herself, she's drawn the picture of herself right next to Lasha without anybody in between them, because she identifies with Lasha more than anyone else, all right? Now, she's a first grader, but check out the bosom. She really identifies with Lasha. All right, then next to her we have big brother Tyler here, all right? Now, he has no arm space. His arms are kind of squished up. He has one eye closed, you know. And that's her big brother. Does he look like a big brother? He's kind of squished up, isn't he? He didn't get any space. Then on the far end over here, we've got big sister Roka, who's reduced to a stick figure with no hair. Yeah. Big eyes, like a deer in the headlight. You know, when you have light shine on deer, their eyes get really big. They're afraid. When someone is abused or someone is a victim, the children draw them like that with great big eyes, like fearfulness. But the most interesting part to me is the rest of the story, so to speak. Yeah, really. Oh. Mom is a doormat directly underneath Lasha. She's laying down there. Now, she is bald, but she is grinning, okay? Big smile on her face. And this is how we see a child draw a mom who's doing this. Okay, I've got to keep the peace in the family. And if I ask Lasha to make her bed, she'll blow up, so I'll just make the beds. That'll work. And if I ask Lasha to do homework, she'll just get all upset, so we won't ask about homework. We won't talk about homework. And anything that upsets Lasha, we'll just sidestep it, and we'll just be really careful. See, everything's fine. It's all peaceful. I've got it all under control. Everything's fine. We're doing real well. Who's taken over the house? Yes, she has. Lasha's pathology has taken over the house because Mom laid down the leadership role and let Lasha take over. Trying to keep the peace doesn't work. When I had that little girl, I said, I want you to make your bed. She would melt down. The next morning I said, sweetheart, I want you to make your bed. Why don't you lay down and throw a screamer for a while until you feel strong enough to get your bed made? It's okay with me. It's a free country. Let it go. I'm not going to try to stop a volcano. You can't put a cork in a volcano, all right? And if they need to blow up, hey, that's fine with me, but you got to get your bed made when you're done, all right? So Mom here is laying down on the job. Then here we have Dad. This is not good, okay? Dad was actually done in a yellow crayon, which is not a good sign. He has no feet. The man is not going far. Yeah. He has no hands. Without feet, without hands, you're pretty limited, all right? And his eyes are closed. This is how we see a child draw a dad who's like, you know, we're buddies, we're pals. He has stepped from leader to down here, buddy and pal. Okay, buddy and pal is much lower than dad. Dad is much higher position, okay? But, oh, we're pals, we're buddies. You know, all kids go through phases. It'll just go away. Don't look at it. Oh, yeah, a lot of kids kill animals. They'll just get away with it, you know, and he'll grow out of it. It'll go away. And it doesn't go away. Attachment disorder, they say, is a bomb set during the first 3 years of life to blow when they're 15. That's scary. They get sicker every year until they get proper treatment at home, at school, and in the therapist's office. So, is this family going to feel safe? Absolutely not. And the child has to feel safe in order to heal. That feeling of safety is primary at home, at school, all day and all night. The child must feel safe, surrounded by adults that are in control of their feelings and of the situation. Acceptance is another piece that the brain has to have to heal. This part of the brain, we have to accept the child. They are strong-willed. The toughest kids that we have ever worked with are coming out of Russia and Romania. They have profound neglect over there like we have never seen. And the only ones that are being adopted are the ones that lived. They don't, with the huge amount of neglect over there, they have a high death rate. The only ones that live are the very, very strong-willed. And we adopt these powerfully strong-willed children who have been betrayed on every level. And we say, we're just going to love you. We're just going to show them what love looks like and provide a good home and a safe bed. And this child will just turn to us and say, thank you for saving me. Yeah, it doesn't happen. They come in and they go, I don't trust you. I don't trust anybody. Your name's Mom. I got betrayed by a mom before, and you're going to pay. And we have got a mess. We have got a mess. Now, some of the children coming out of that level of pain and neglect come into a new family, open their heart to love, and just relax and heal. Most of them don't. And the parents have to have special tools. And we have no idea why some of them have the ability still to soften and love when they came out of the same horrible, horrible situation. It's unbelievable. We have to accept the children. That strong will kept them alive. We have children in the United States that have been just about as tortured as the Russian orphans, neglected and left, mom out in the bar, leaving the baby alone for days and whatever stuff. Horrible, horrible nightmares the children have endured. And they need our acceptance. Who they are is good enough. Are we going to help them to be the best they can be? Yes. Are we going to help them to be somebody else? It's not going to happen. Who they are is good enough. That strong will, we don't try to break it. We honor that strong will and we shape it to where they start out with, I'm not doing it and you can't make me. And then we move it to, I'm not robbing the 7-Eleven and they can't make me. I'm not taking illegal drugs and they can't make me. Okay? So we shape that strong will instead of fighting against what's right to fighting against what's wrong and standing strong for what's right. But in the beginning, they stand strong against everything, okay? And we accept that. Sweetheart, I see you got some trust issues on this. You need to work it through. Up and down movement. A part of acceptance that I didn't cover is accepting the birth parents and the adoptive parents. Their parents are part of their life, especially the birth parents, that genetics. If we say, your birth mother was a scuds bucket loser and your dad was a moron idiot, they're like, well, that's half of me and the other half is a moron idiot. Wow. Are we loving and accepting the child? No. My adopted daughter, my oldest adopted daughter, has beautiful curls. And my family has straight, stringy hair. We have to have a perm or we're like, I always want a little girl with curls. And she's a real happy, bubbly kind of person, so her curls just kind of bounce all the time. I love her curls. How can I love her curls and hate the father that gave her the curls? She has beautiful blue eyes that are filled with love and joy and expression. How can I look in those eyes and love her from her eyes to her toes and hate the mother who gave her those eyes? I can't. And those birth parents, when my daughter Beth, when she came down the stairs on prom night, dressed in the dress that she and I designed and sewed and made together, I got to be there. She was more beautiful than any princess. I got to be there when she graduated from high school and sang the song in front of the whole crowd. I got to be there. Her birth parents missed it. On her wedding day, I will get to be there and they will miss that. They lost out. I feel sorry for them. I don't hate them. I feel sad for them because they missed so much. So I accept them. If I ever meet them, I'll give them a huge hug. Thank you so much. The greatest gift I've ever been given. This fantastic little girl. Thank you. They could have chose death for her, and they chose life. And I got the benefit of it. So I've got to accept those birth parents as accepting my daughter has to be part of her healing. All right, up and down movement. Moms bounce babies up and down. There's a book out there now saying, don't rock your babies, don't bounce them, don't pick them up when they cry. Whoa, I don't believe in book burning, but that one would be the first if I did. When moms bounce babies, they don't say, oh, I'm developing the limbic system in my little one. You know, it's just an instinct, and the baby's calm because it's activating the limbic system and it's developing it so that it's building and getting bigger and stronger. Well, when I get them when they're 5, 10, or 15, it's like, okay, we're going to develop your limbic system. You know, it's a little strange. So I can't do it that way. So we use a mini trampoline. It's about that big around. They jump up and down on there. They play jump rope. We use a therapeutic horseback riding program. That up and down movement on the back of the horse is very healing for the brain, for the spirit. I hold them and I rock them. I put music on and we dance, and I pick them up and we boogie and we get silly. Up and down movement, all right? One thing about up and down movement, the kids crave it. It feels good when they activate their limbic system. So they will find a kid in the neighborhood, especially the teenagers, to do up and down movement on it. So I highly recommend you find them a constructive way to do up and down movement besides the neighborhood kids. How's that for a tactful way to deal with that? You know, a horse is a lot cheaper than teen pregnancy. All right? Now, this is that outer part of the brain that we're looking at. This is the neocortex, the thinking cap, my teachers used to call it. They'd say, okay, we're having a spelling test. Put on your thinking cap. You know, it's, oh, okay. It's an excellent visual picture for that outer part of the brain, where we have our logic, our reasoning. We plan things in this part of the brain. Our speech, language, and sight are in that outer part of the brain, hearing as well. Our creativity, problem solving, happens in that outer part of the brain. Most of our schoolwork is done here. So the neocortex is activated with joy and laughter. Children with attachment disorder suck the joy and laughter right out of the home. You know, when you talk to the parents, they're not laughing. Let me tell you what. Whew. It's just, you know, pain, pain, pain. They suck the joy and laughter out of the classroom as well once the honeymoon period's over. We have to keep control of that. I want my home filled with joy and laughter, with peace and love. So I set it up. I get up in the morning, paint a mustache on with my mascara, and serve breakfast. You know? I do all kinds of silly stuff like that, bringing the joy and the laughter back in, because we need it. Laughter is such a release of tension. I laugh with the children. Laughing at them doesn't change their brain, okay? They have to laugh to activate the outer cortex. They have to laugh. If you're making fun of them and you're laughing, they're not changing the oxygen level in their brains. So we need to keep them laughing, not keep them laughing, but get them laughing to activate that. When we laugh, it also changes the oxygen level in the brain. So you get a double on that one. Oxygen. How do you get oxygen into a brain? Exercise, deep breathing, yawning, drinking more water. A lot of classrooms have the kids drinking more water. All right, and oxygen activates that outer part. The Mozart's music, all kinds of research on that, showing the work that was done, and different states were putting out Mozart's tapes to the expectant moms for the babies, and everybody was playing Mozart. And then they had, last 2 years, they did some more research. They said, no, it doesn't. It's like the sugar studies. They had all these sugar studies. Oh, sugar makes children hyper, and da-da-da-da-da. And then they came out with research that said, no, it doesn't. So it's like, I don't know. But I know when I play, it calms my kids down. Not Beethoven. If you play Beethoven while a child is sleeping, it will give them nightmares. Yeah, seriously. Beethoven was very disturbed, and the rhythm of his music is very powerful. Changes the heart rate, and the heart rate changes the brain patterns. So we need to be very aware of the music in our children's environments. All right, the temporal lobes. I'm going to skip back to the picture of the brain here real quick. And I want to show you where the temporal lobes are. See the circle part? That's the temporal lobes. And right on the edge of the temporal lobes, right here, that's the basal ganglia. We're going to do that in just a little minute. This is the healthy brain. You see that basal ganglia is all the way up to a red level here, and red and yellow there. But look at all the activity in that temporal lobe. So then, when we look at what the temporal lobes do, the temporal lobes is where we have our memory experience. Remember we talked about that when we were talking about alcohol before the baby's born? When we have damage to the left side, we see violence, learning problems, temper, aggression, irritability, language, listening, and reading problems. That's left temporal lobe damage. They can get that from falling out of a high chair, getting hit in the head, a bike accident, a car accident, falling downstairs. Right side damage, we see problems with mood stability. There's the bipolar disorder that they're saying is genetic. It might be, and they might also taken a tumble when they were little. Social cues such as reading facial expressions, they don't get that piece. When you smile, you like my behavior. When you frown, you don't like my behavior. They miss that. And they have problems with rhythm and music. Many of them are tone deaf. All right? So the temporal lobes are highly affected by caffeine. What do we take in that has caffeine in it? Chocolate, coffee, soda, tea, yeah, Coke, Pepsi, Mountain Dew, tea, chocolate. Aspirin has a lot of caffeine in it. So we need to be very aware. Caffeine can cut the blood supply to the temporal lobes by up to 25%. Well, when we're trying to heal the brain, we don't want to be cutting the blood supply to it. There's a plan. Nicotine, cigarette smoke, even if it's secondhand cigarette smoke, it can again cut the blood supply in the temporal lobes where we're trying to improve that. This is the part we really want to activate for them to be able to learn. And sleep deprivation affects the temporal lobes. How many hours a night does an adult need to sleep? 8, that's right. They used to say 6 to 8. Okay? But the new research is showing 8 hours. And the sleep studies they did a couple years ago, they had adults sleep 7 hours a night. At the end of 1 week, the adults in the study were working at the same level as someone who was legally drunk. Yeah. Well, there's a plan to be in charge of your life. Okay? The same reaction time, the same mood swings, the same inability to concentrate as someone who is legally drunk. We need to be getting ourselves to bed on time. But you know what people do? They say, I'm just going to watch the news. Well, they watch the news and then they're like, whoa, I'm all stressed out. Maybe I better watch Jay Leno or something to chill out after the news. You know, well, maybe I'll watch the late movie to relax. And then I got to get up in the morning and it's late and I don't have my 8 hours. You know, that little box is such a problem. We got rid of ours. We didn't have television for 19 years. We rent movies once in a while, but we didn't have television. And I got to tell you, it was fantastic. Now, sometimes the school would say, you need to watch this show for homework, and my kids are all like, no, we're not. My mom will kill us, you know. But we didn't have TV for 19 years. My kids were riding horses, climbing mountains, building things, doing stuff. They had a life. They don't know what the show Friends is because they were out with their friends, being friends. Not watching some twisted sick people be friends, making bad choices, you know. Jeez. So turn the thing off, or you know what? Never turn it on. The quickest way to get rid of the TV is so much fun. You just make sure that the TV's cool, okay? You haven't had it on for a few hours. And you say to a child with attachment disorder, I don't want the TV on while I'm out in the yard. And then you go out in the yard and you rake or do some weeding or something for, you know, about a half an hour. And you come back in and you put your hand on top of the TV. It will be warm. And you unplug it and cut the plug off. And you know what? The next time you're out in the yard, they won't watch TV. No discussion. No words. It's done. It is so great. The Super Bowl's a problem. But we just go to the neighbor's house. All right? So we need to be getting our sleep, and the children need to be getting theirs. We optimize the temporal lobes. Music. Within 1 minute, our heart rate goes to the same rhythm that the music's beat is. And you need to be very aware of that because our heart rate changes our brain rhythms, okay? So music affects us. And whatever music you're playing, be very aware of the impact that that has on the children. Positive and complicated input. Now, that's kind of a strange term for math and spelling, memorizing poetry, okay? But that's what it is. And they've been telling teachers, oh, you know, if the child's having problems, don't give them so many spelling words and so many math problems. Nope. Give them more. When children have problems with spelling, they need more practice, not less. If they have problems with math, they need more practice, not less. They need to be weightlifting the temporal lobes so that when they're out there in the world as an adult, their employer isn't going to say, oh, you know, you have a problem with this, so we won't have you do as much work as the other employees. They're going to say, psh, you're fired. You can't concentrate, you can't do your work, you're out of here. We need to give them the exercise to develop their brains. All right? Memorizing poetry is powerful. Let me show you. This is one of the first kids that I ever had long term. He killed over 50 animals before he came to live with us. And he was a real interesting child. You know how smart a child has to be to outsmart a clinical psychologist? Pretty sharp, folks, you know. Well, he had outsmarted 2 clinical psychologists, and they said, oh, he has an IQ of 50. IQ 50 is not good, okay? This is bad. They're not going to be driving. They're not going to be living independently. They're in trouble. Well, when he came into our program, I worked with Dr. Foster Klein, who is like an amazing genius. I mean, he's just brilliant. So he does a different IQ test for this little guy. He says, all right, what color is this? Okay, he held up something that was one color. And the little guy named every single color except the color that it was, green, okay? And then he held up something else. He says, okay, what color is that? And the little guy named every color, including green, but not blue. Does he know his colors? You bet. He knew every answer on the test and wasn't going to give it to the testers, so he gave them all the exact opposite answer. Made him look profoundly retarded. When he came to me, he would say, what color monkey is? That's how he spoke. So we had him memorize poetry because the rhythm of poetry is very healing for the brain and helping them with language. So he started with just a short little, little tiny poem, and then he worked up to the preamble to the Constitution of the United States. And he memorized that. And so each morning, he'd pick out a little poem while we were having breakfast. And then he'd take his book of poetry out underneath the big tree in the backyard. I'm from Colorado. We don't get rain, okay? We're having a terrible drought. And he'd sit out underneath the big tree. Sometimes he was hanging from the big tree. He'd be up in the tree as a kid, And he'd memorize the poem. And then he'd come in whenever he had the poem memorized, whether it was 15 minutes or 5 hours. There was no rush. Whenever you're done's fine. We'd sit and have lunch, and we'd strategize how we were going to film the particular poem. Well, before I sent the boy home, I sent the film home. His father looks at this whole summer of poetry, different poem every day that he had memorized, including the preamble to the Constitution. He says, he's not retarded. He's a genius. I said, yep, you got it. Well, they took him out of the special ed class that he was in, signed him up in a completely different school that didn't know him, put him in the regular mainstream classroom. He earned honor roll his first semester. Pretty awesome, huh? Positive and complicated input, we have them memorized. In the old days in school, they used to do a lot of memorizing, and now they don't. We have so many students, it's really hard for them to have time to recite, and we're afraid they might be embarrassed, so we're not doing it. 10 to 12 hours of sleep for a child. When they're growing, they need 12 hours of sleep. When they're not growing, they need 10. Children need to be put to bed on time. But children with attachment disorder don't feel safe at night, so they stay up. And you can put them in there, but they're up till midnight, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. And then they can't function in the morning. They're like, oh, I'm wiped out, that kind of a thing. We continually put them to bed on time. What I do is I up their exercise so that they're more ready for sleep at night. Swimming or hiking or something like that for a few hours really helps them to be able to get into some healthy sleep patterns. And they go to bed at the same time each night. We don't have them up an hour or two later on weekends because it disrupts the setting of that, okay, my body's ready for sleep now, my body's ready to wake up. They need to be in bed at the same time. And no light. The reason we have no light on there is the pineal gland is the gland that changes the serotonin. Serotonin is the building material for melatonin. If we don't have enough serotonin, we won't make melatonin. And melatonin is what puts our brain into a deep sleep. We have to go in and out of healthy sleep patterns for a certain number of hours without interruption for our subconscious to process and for us to be sane. If we have interrupted sleep patterns, or we don't go all the way into a deep sleep because we don't have enough melatonin, we act crazy in the daytime. So melatonin is very, very important. It's made when it's completely dark against the eyes. That turns the pineal gland on to produce melatonin. Now they're finding that teenagers take a much longer period of low light and then no light to produce melatonin. That's why it's so hard for them to sleep and they're up till all hours of the night and whatever, because of the melatonin problem. But with the little ones, if we have a night light on or a light shining, from the hallway or even the moon shining in the window, they will not produce the melatonin that they have to go into a deep sleep. So we need to have the lights out and, some appropriate curtains or something so that they can get the sleep that they need to have. The basal ganglia is a little spot on the edge of the temporal lobe circle that I was showing you. All right? It's highly affected by trauma. Post-traumatic stress disorder is when we've had a shocking trauma, such as seeing a horrible car accident or being in a big fire or something like that. And then we have flashbacks throughout the day, throughout the night, sometimes every 15 minutes on a continuous 24-hour cycle of the trauma. And every time the child or the adult relives the trauma, whether it was war or domestic violence, their heart rate goes up, changes the rhythm of the brain, shifts them into that back part of the brain, and we've got huge problems. Most children have reactive attachment disorder because of the PTSD. So a lot of times they're diagnosed with PTSD, RAD, and ODD, oppositional defiant disorder, because they all fit together, all right? When the basal ganglia is not working properly, when it's underactive, this is where dopamine is made. We talked about that for the ADD, all right? When we don't have enough dopamine, we see attention deficit disorder, poor handwriting, real jerky movements with the handwriting. Parkinson's disease is a condition where the cells that make the dopamine are dying, and they don't know why the cells start dying in that particular part of the brain. They're trying to find that out. But with Parkinson's disease, you see hand tremors and movements that they cannot control. Lack of motivation, tiredness, I don't care, whatever, I don't care, is a lot of times from not enough dopamine. So we optimize. We help the basal ganglia by Ritalin increases dopamine, all right? Now, dopamine and serotonin have to stay in balance. So they're like a seesaw, teeter-totter kind of thing. So if your serotonin's up here, your dopamine's down there. Okay, they go like that. So you got your dopamine down here. If we put some Ritalin in the brain, it's going to increase the dopamine. But where'd the serotonin go? Right down there, yeah. We say, oh my gosh, we got all these symptoms of depression. We better get an antidepressant in there. Get that going right up. Oh man, look at that. We better add a cousin of the Ritalin to get the dopamine back up. Kid can't pay attention. Oh man, we got all these symptoms of depression. Better add another antidepressant in there to help that one do the job. And pretty soon, we have the child on 3, 4, 5, 6 medications. There is no research documenting what's going to happen to a developing brain with more than 2 powerful medications in it. Many of them have only been tested with 1. Every single child is a guinea pig. They don't know if they're going to be in a coma for the rest of their life or stop brain development. They have no idea when they're on more than 1 medication. If that medication isn't working, I say throw it out and try a different one. We need to be very aware of what the medication's doing to the child's brain. All right, Ritalin increases dopamine. Protein increases dopamine. What do we eat that has protein in it? That's right, meat, cheese, eggs, nuts, yogurt, milk, tofu. Yeah, protein increases dopamine. Now, I'm a mom. I am not a scientific researcher. I'm not a brain scientist. But in my own scientific research, in my kitchen, I have seen less side effects to hard-boiled eggs than I have to Ritalin. But that's just my own scientific research. All right? So what did moms used to feed their family for breakfast back in the old days? Yeah. Bacon, eggs, toast, because you got to have the carbohydrates to balance out the proteins to make the dopamine for the brain. Well, now we've all decided carbohydrates are toxic waste. A couple of years ago, fats were all toxic waste and they'd kill you, But, so we stopped feeding our kids eggs because research showed that eggs will kill you. So now we feed them, you know what? Cereal. Take a look at the ingredients in the cereal. Oh my gosh, they're talking toxic waste right there. I mean, unbelievable. They have Oreo cookie cereal. Do you know that? I couldn't believe it. They have Reese's Pieces chocolate peanut butter flavored cereal. I don't know why the kids can't focus in school. Do you? It's ADD running rampant. It's genetics. Oh, we don't fuel their bodies. Their brains don't work. You know, if you had your favorite car, all right, whatever it is, Mercedes, Beamer, whatever. I happen to drive a Toyota Prius. I love my Prius. It's one of those hybrids, okay? So you're driving your favorite car, and, oh, gosh, you know, I need to refuel. Oh, look at the line at the gas station and the price of gas. I don't think so. We're just going to drive right past the pumps, and we're just going to fill up with the garden hose at the gas station here. Oh, look at how much money we saved and how fast that was. Would you do it? Of course we wouldn't. Why not? No, the car won't run. It'll ruin the engine. We do it with our kids all the time. Hey, it's quick and easy. Drive by, fill her up, thank you. Why do they call those things Happy Meals? They make your kids happy? Make mine throw a screamer, man. We got ketchup, squirting. Put the toy down, eat your french fries. That should just be written on the package. At least eat the meat, you know. Oh, gosh. You know, that drive-by eating, it doesn't work for our kids. And they need good nutrition. We need to get back to feeding them. You know, and the schools have a whole program now of breakfast. And you ought to take a look at what they're feeding them. Pure carbohydrates. Well, shoot, might as well not eat. Fasting is better than that. It's not working. All right, protein increases dopamine. Oxygen, there's that oxygen again. What happened to our children's oxygen levels? What do you think? Yeah, television, Nintendo. This is their exercise program. Sheesh. They're not moving. They're not climbing and building and riding bikes and going and doing. They're like, you know, if you have a normal child, I'm not sure what a normal child is, but they say there are those. You know, if you have a normal child and they're watching TV, you know, if you call their name, they go, what? If you have a child with ADD or reactive attachment disorder and they're watching TV, it like sucks their brain right out. And you call their name and they don't even look. And you can do this and they're like, oh, it's unbelievable. Puts them into a, you know, altered state. Oxygen. Positive thoughts. Our children need to be reaching for goals, reaching for positive things. I'd like to be able to do this, so I'm going to earn that privilege by moving up the ladder. All right, we're going to talk about that quite a bit after lunch. Positive thoughts. Exercise. Our kids need to be moving. You know, I can't stress enough. They cannot sit on the couch and grow and develop. They need to be out moving. Basal ganglia sometimes goes the other way, and it's overactive. And then we see too much dopamine in the brain. And then we see anxiety disorders, panic attacks, hypervigilance. They freeze during stress. They can't think of what to do, you know. Tourette syndrome is a condition where there's too much dopamine in the brain. Before you add anything to the child's diet, it's always important to check with the doctor, especially if the child's on medication. Have a doctor on the team. Tryptophan is one of the amino acids, one of those puzzle pieces to a protein we were talking about with the phenylalanine and the tyrosine with the dopamine production, all right? Tryptophan is real heavy in turkey. You know, after you eat turkey, you're like relaxed and mellow. Okay, tryptophan increases serotonin. It's the building material for serotonin. Well, you can't buy tryptophan anymore because they made a bad batch once and it killed some people, so you can't buy it. But there's a product called 5-HTP that has a lot of tryptophan in it. And there's a special education teacher named Diane Kraft. She has an excellent website, dianekraft.com. And Diane has 2 N's in it, and Kraft starts with a C, all right? And she has done research with special education students and their parents, and hundreds of kids in her program have had incredible results when they changed the nutrition. reduced the attention problems, eliminated aggression problems in many of them. Not all, but many of them. Huge results. Some of her tapes are over there called The Biology of Behavior. But anyway, she recommends 5-HTP and finds that it really helps the children when they're having too much dopamine problems. St. John's wort helps balance the serotonin dopamine situation because it increases the use of the serotonin. It's an herb. They pick the leaves, put them in a capsule. But again, check it out with your doctor. St. John's wort's been used in Europe for many, many years for depression and too much dopamine in the brain. And certainly no Ritalin if we're seeing anxiety disorders and panic attacks, hypervigilance. Okay, this is the last part of the brain that we're going to go over, the cingulate gyrus, right down the mid part of the brain here, mid part of the head. When the cingulate gyrus isn't working properly, we have oppositional defiant disorder. No, I won't, and you can't make me, okay? We see obsessive compulsive disorder. They do the same thing over and over. It's kind of like a hamster on a wheel. You know, they get going on a wheel like this, and they go faster, faster, faster. And if you try to stop it when it's going that fast, it's much harder than if you stop it right when it begins. But they get stuck on the same thing, like, can we go to McDonald's? 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 That kind of a thing where they're stuck. Or they have to have their stuff lined up a certain way, and if you move this piece over there, they're like, no, that has to be over there. Okay, they just get stuck in certain things because the brain's stuck. This part of the brain is like the gear shifter, all right? And when it gets stuck, they can't shift gears from that survival defense part of the brain into the limbic system, the love department, into that outer cortex. It gets stuck. Now, if you had a gear shifter, let's say you have a toy car that's got a gear shifter, and it got stuck, what would you do about it? What would you do with that gear shifter that was stuck? You would oil it, exactly. And that's what we're finding very powerful for this part of the brain. Special oils. Omega-3 and omega-6. Omega-3 is from salmon oil. Omega-6 is from evening primrose oil, borage oil, and flaxseed oil. All right? We call it WD-40 for the brain. Okay? And my kids say, oh man, I need some WD-40. My brain's stuck, all right? But that loosens up that gear shifter, and they found it as effective as some of the very powerful psychotropic medications they're putting these kids on. Okay? So we optimize the cingulate gyrus by correcting quickly the first time they do an inappropriate behavior. Let me borrow a chair here. Sorry. So, if we have a child who's sitting here tipping a chair, what is the normal thing that somebody would say with a child tipping a chair? Stop tipping the chair. And what does a negative do to the brain? What part of the brain does it activate? The defiant part of the brain, right? Well, a child with attachment disorder wants that part activated. That's their comfort zone. So what are they going to keep doing? Tipping the chair. You can guarantee it. You say stop tipping the chair, you can just know they're going to keep doing it because they want you to say it again. I liked it so much the first time. Stop tipping the chair. I say stop tipping the chair. Okay, or whatever. We put a little more emphasis on it each time. It doesn't work with our kids. What we do is we give them an action, a positive thing to do that counteracts the negative behavior. Give me the chair. All right? When we have the chair, are they going to be tipping it? No. You know, if they're spitting through a straw, instead of stop spitting through the straw, stop spitting through the straw, we say give me the straw. A positive thing to do that counteracts the negative behavior. Give me the pencil when they're doing their, you know, drumming, driving you crazy. So sometimes this isn't going to work. Okay, give me your little brother. You know, we're going to have to get rid of him now. You know, but there are times when it is very appropriate. And when we have an oppositional defiant child, if you say, give me the chair, what are they probably going to say? No. So don't worry, we'll cover it. Okay? But correct quickly, no repeats of inappropriate behavior. So how do we decide what's inappropriate behavior? Well, I used to look at it and say, okay, if it bugs me, they have to stop it. Well, over the years, I've worked with so many kids doing so many different things, very few things bug me at all. All right, I hate that when you kill the cat. You're going to have to stop. No. That one would bug me big time. So I had to change that criteria. So what I do is I look at the behavior. If the child did that behavior on a date as an adult, would they get another date with the person, or would they get a, I'm not going out with you again? So let's take whining, for instance, okay? Can you see him on a date? Please, please, please go out with me tomorrow night. Probably not going to get another date with the person, okay? Or will that behavior work in the office as an adult when they have a job? Please, please, please give me a raise. Please, boss, I'll be really good. Please. Do you think that's going to work? Probably not. So we need to teach the child an appropriate behavior that will work in developing relationships as adult, in developing job skills as an adult, and correcting quickly inappropriate behaviors that are going to cause problems later on in their life. Not waiting till if he does that one more time. If he does that one more time, I'm going to do something about it. Nah, the first time. Consequence, the first time. Oxygen. Our kids need to be moving. So many different parts of the brain rely on that oxygen to be working. Positive input. Catch, I'm doing something right. My gosh, you haven't been drumming your pencil for 5 minutes here. Let me check your hand. Wow, getting stronger. Good, you know. You walk past another kid, you didn't hit him. Are you all right? Let me check your arm. Whoa, it's getting stronger. You can control it now. Okay, not in a sarcastic way, in a playful way, but catch them doing something right. You've been working on your paper there for 5 minutes, quietly. Good job. Catch them doing something right. Last but not least, strong sitting. This is an exercise that we've been having the children do for over 30 years. And we didn't know it was doing anything to the brain. We just knew it was developing self-control in the children and calming them down. So we have a lot of the classrooms now starting out the morning with all of the children doing strong sitting. It's an exercise kind of like yoga, all right? And the families at home have the children doing strong sitting while mom's cooking breakfast. So strong sitting, they sit down on a rugger mat, not a hard cold floor, with their legs folded and their hands folded like this in their lap, okay? And their back needs to be straight. If they push their back out and pinch their neck up, it cuts the supply of, there's fluid that goes up your spine and around your brain and back down. So it pinches that back here, pinches some of the blood supply, and it caves the chest in. So the oxygen's not as available. When they sit up straight, the oxygen's more available, and it straightens up the spine there. And they sit like that. Now, one of the brain gyms, I work with a really, really brilliant mother named Nancy from Hawaii. And if you cross your hands together and do this with me, okay, she figured this out. We've been doing brain gyms with our kids for years, but I never thought of combining them with strong sitting, okay? But she put them together, and it's been so much better, so we all do it this way. Now, what you need to do is put your palms opposite, okay? So you're going to put the backs of your hands together, okay? And then cross your hands over. And then intertwine your fingers. Bring your thumbs up toward your body like that, all right? So when you have your legs crossed and you're sitting down there and your hands are crossed like this, that's one of the brain gyms. And the brain gyms integrate the left and the right side of the brain and help them to work together in a more effective way. It also, our kids that have been sexually abused, when they have their hands folded like this, their hands are down in their crotch and their mind goes right to the crotch, With this, it lifts their hands up out of their crotch, puts their pointing up, which is a good spot, okay? And it activates the left and the right hemispheres to be able to work more cohesively. So we have the children do strong sitting. We start with 30 seconds because it's hard for them. They're out of that back part of their brain where their comfort zone is into that outer cortex. And they're like, I don't know, this feels weird, this is really hard, I need to get some negative attention to move back here. So they look for negative attention. So we just have everybody do their strong sitting. Okay, good, you got your 30 seconds done, you can come. Oh, Sweetums, you can work on yours as long as you need to, there's no rush. Okay, Janie, you can come. All right, Sally, Tom, whoever. And when they all get done, okay, good job. At home, we always end strong sitting with a hug. All right? In school, it'd be good if you did a high five or, a pat on the back or something, just because when they're in that outer cortex of the brain, they're more open to connection, and that human touch is very, very healing for the brain. So that would be a really good time to do that. So we try to do strong sitting at home 3 times a day. In the classrooms, if you can do it once a day, that helps. Excellent exercise for that part of the brain. All right, a couple of last little things here. Post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, organized brain, or I should say disorganized brain. Bessel van der Kolk from Harvard University found the brain is organized differently when we have post-traumatic stress disorder. He found the left side of the brain has logic, coping, date, time, facts, our ability to organize, sequence our identity, and language. The right side of the brain is where the emotions are. Well, when one of the clients, he had PET scans of the brain, like the scan I showed you earlier. I don't happen to have Bessel van der Kolk's PET scans, so you get this little cartoon here, but Bessel van der Kolk is a professor at Harvard University, and he does a lot of incredible research. What he found was the right side of the brain, when the client had an emotion, the right side of the brain lit up with a whole lot of electrical juice. The left side of the brain went dark with little or no electrical energy going through the brain. So what just got shut off? The logic. Well, you have to have that for schoolwork. You have to have that to learn anything at home. Coping, our ability to handle things. Date and time. Gosh, you know, I was abused, but it was 5 years ago, and I've been safe for 5 years. That piece is turned off. The abuse happened yesterday, today, tomorrow. The date and time department isn't functioning. Facts, our ability to organize, to get our work done, to get things taken care of. Sequence, our identity. Language. What's the main tool that parents use to instruct their children? Language, right? We explain things to them. What's the main tool that teachers use in the classroom? Language. What's the main tool that a lot of therapists use in the treatment room? Language. They have wonderful wisdom and insight to share with the clients so they understand their issues better. But when that part of the brain is turned off, action, not words. Action, not anger. Because the children cannot learn from words when they're having a feeling, when they're having an emotion. So we need to be very aware, these special needs children, if we sit them down and give them a lecture, talk to them about their behavior, their brain just turned off, we're spitting in the wind. All right? I don't know if you can see this very well, but this is the brain of one of the children that I worked with. He was 7 years old when this scan was done. This is called a SPECT scan. It's a three-dimensional scan of the brain. The blue parts are where the brain is working properly. The pinkish orange parts, and like I said, I'm not a brain researcher, so you get this in mom language. The pink and orange parts there are where the brain's working at about half speed. And the white parts are where the brain is not working properly at all. This child came into my home and he was like a wild animal, like an orangutan loose in your house. I mean, he ran along the couch, running on my couch, okay? We don't even put feet under my couch. Jumped onto the chair, you know, he was crawling along the kitchen counters. He was just like, whoa, and I'm watching this child going around the room, and I'm thinking, this mother is a saint that she has not killed this child. Wow. She brought him in for help, you know. We got the scan of his brain. It was like, no wonder he couldn't function. This is scary. This is 2.5, almost 3 years later. Yeah, isn't that beautiful? The brain is so amazing. This is one mom, okay, she was a special education teacher, worked her way up to head of the school because she knew kids, she knew her stuff. She was an amazing woman, couldn't get control of her son. She learned the techniques that we're sharing in this class, provided tight structure, powerful nurturing, got an attachment therapist on board who wasn't doing a lot of talking, okay, put those pieces together. No medication. The teacher was on the team, providing the structure that this child needed to have. And what a difference. This brain is going to impact his children in a whole different way than the other brain would have. And his grandchildren will be impacted by this. You know, with this brain, he would have been doing yucky stuff on the playground that the other kids would have been affected by. He wouldn't have been a good friend. With this brain, he can be a good friend. Caring, compassionate, sharing. This mom helped one child, impacting many. The work that you do with children is priceless. And if you impact one child, you've made a huge difference. In saving one, you touch many.